movers, and welcome to day 18 of our mat class. Wait, is it 18? Yes, 18. Today we are going to do less of a class and more of a discussion on modifications and what you should be feeling during math class. So just really quickly, I would just like to say, math class, when Joseph Pilates created his method, he started with the mat class. That's how he exercised himself, that's how he taught people initially, and then he realized that he could not physically support his clients or they were too weak to do the mat class on their own, and so he created the apparatus. And that was intended to provide an external support system for the movements that he was having his clients work through. The difference with the mat class is that your support system comes internally, okay? So a lot of the mat work looks really easy. It looks like not a whole lot of work, but the point of the mat work is for every single part of your body to be integrated and working in the movement, even in something like a chair position. It is common to feel neck tension, even lower back pain or hip pain, if you're doing the mat class and you don't really have that internal support system. That's why I had sent those videos about breathing and core muscle engagement, so maybe go ahead and take a look at those. Again, and then we're also going to talk a little bit more about breathing and how to get into the core and how to activate hip flexors and hamstrings, for example. So I'm just going to really quick show you what I'm talking about, and I'm going to use this box. You can use like an ottoman or something. Okay, so it's common when someone is in the mat work for them to be extending, okay, because the legs are heavy in here, as opposed to being in a little bit more or a lot more, let's not even mince it, core muscle engagement. So as we're doing hundreds here, if you're doing hundreds and your back is lifted, but that feels normal to you, it's going to cause pain, okay? And then it's going to be really hard to come back to a flexed spine, okay? That's really deep core muscle engagement. And when you have that deep core muscle engagement, you can extend your legs out. If you're feeling that pain, or the next day you're having pain, not muscle soreness, but pain, you know that something needs to change in your form. And usually it means that we need to reduce the range of motion, reduce the tempo, and really come back to this working from the center. So I was hoping to have a little bit of a different visual for you today, but I'm going to take my flex band and I am going to tie it around my rib cage. We were talking a little bit about breathing with a client today, and so I wanted to give you just like a little bit of a different visual. So I'm going to tie this here like this, okay? So you can see here, okay, there's my band, and when I inhale, I'm going to want to push that band back, and when I exhale, I'm going to want to squeeze that. My band is actually looser now. And then again, inhaling through the nose, pushing my ribs back, and exhale, closing even more. And then I'm going to stay connected here and inhale into the back, and exhale, close even more. So now my band is starting to get loose, because as I'm doing this, my rib cage is getting smaller and smaller. And then let me use my hands to give you a little bit of another visual. So here you can see how far apart are my fingers, and I'm going to inhale. And my fingers separate slightly, but not a lot, and then exhale. Pretty long exhale, but you can see my fingers are much closer together. And then when I inhale, they expand a little bit, and I went into my shoulders a little bit, but I'm pressing into the back, and exhale. And now my fingers are coming back closer together, and now you can see my band is really loose. Okay, so a lot of rib cage movement when you breathe, and you find that deep core muscle with the exhale, and you hold it. Pilates Pilates is about sustained core muscle engagement, okay, especially in the mat class. So when you breathe, you don't want to be inhaling and exhaling, okay, letting a lot of ribcage movement in the front. The ribcage movement comes from the back. Okay, so then I'm also going to show that to you, some core muscle engagement and everything in our quadruped. Okay, so here, I'm going to hang out my belly this way. Oh, I'm a little bit not neutral, but I'm about neutral. So my belly's hanging out, and on an exhale, I pull it up. And then we let it out, and we pull it up. This shirt might not be the best one to show you. Let's go here. Let's go here. I also have my C-section pooch, so, you know, hopefully you all get that visual here. Okay, but the color might be a little bit easier to see here. So we hang our belly out, okay? That's just like a relaxed, no abdominal connection. And then we pull the belly button in. And then when I breathe, I inhale, and I don't lose that abdominal connection. And then I exhale, and it shrinks even more. And then I inhale into my back and exhale. And you can see how this does not let go. And then if I were to let go, there it is. Up, down. And this is a really good place to practice that also, because when you're laying down, it can be hard to get that sense of pulling the belly in, right? Because gravity is already pressing it down. It's kind of hollowing out into your stomach anyway. But that's the connection that you want to have, is that pulling your belly button away from the floor when you're in a quadruped position with your shoulders still staying relaxed. It can be hard to talk when you do that, but when you talk and you're exhaling, you actually get more connection there, and it's just a matter of hanging on to it then when we move through the different positions. And that is the Pilates challenge, really, right? The hard part about Pilates. So I want to talk about hip flexor and hamstring strain too, because even in the chair position, so you know my chair position is often like this, okay? So that means I'm relying on the hip flexor here, okay? Hip flexor connects to the inner thigh and the front of your spine. I'm pretty deep in the body. I'm lacking hip flexor and hamstring connection. Those I have too much hip flexor and I'm lacking deep core muscle engagement and hamstring work. So even a chair position, if you're not engaged there, okay, those legs are gonna pull your back off the mat. And I don't want you smushing everything into the mat, but I want you to find the connection of your core muscles first laying down. And as you breathe, maybe about 10 breaths, slowly and very intentionally, your spine should be about flat on the mat without really effort. And then as you lift a leg, do you lose it? And as you lift a second leg, do you lose it? And I have to say, for me personally, I do start to lose it, which is why I can't do a full 100 all the time with my legs extended. So we are first going to find that hamstring connection. Like I was saying, in a chair position, you need to have hamstring connection. And if your legs are just willy-nilly here and not supported, it's just not going to be a balanced movement. Okay, so remember that Pilates, everything in your body has a place to go. So even here, my triceps should be pressed down and my shoulder blades should be behind me, and I should be pulling in my belly button. And for me, I use this box. I think it's a nice place to do this. Press down into the box and feel your hamstring engaged. You should feel that muscle tighten. And then if you lift one leg off the box, can you tighten that intentionally, having this sense of your heel pressing to your sits bone? Okay, that's what the hamstring does. It bends the knee. There, and replace, and try the other side. And maybe one side is easier than the other. Okay, and if you're finding that the 100 is challenging for you, put your feet up on a box and round up and do it here. And you'll start to build that peripheral strength to be able to then hold your legs up and extend them out. Okay, so we may need just a little bit of regression. Okay, so that would be one thing. You can also do that during bridging. connection. We have more space to tilt our pelvis, okay? So hamstring connection is really important. Hip flexor engagement is really important. Okay, so we put the circle in front of one leg. We push into the circle with our arms, and then we pulse our knee towards us. So we get a smaller angle than 90 degrees here. And we're gonna keep holding that. And then you should feel that hip flexor engage. I'm gonna do my second side so that I'm balanced. Okay. And then I'm gonna refine my hamstring connections. I'm gonna breathe, shrink my rib cage around, and then I'm gonna lift for my 100. And everything then should be really squeezing and working in. Okay, now for the neck. This can be really challenging. So people lift their chin or they tuck too much, okay? When we lift our head, what I would like for you to do, if we're doing any roll of anything, is that your rib cage comes down first and closed, and that brings the mid back into flexion, round spine, and then when we pick up our head, it's actually being carried by the abdominals. So instead of thinking of lifting the head first, which activates our neck flexors, we're activating core muscles first, and then floating the head up, and then coming up, okay? So, making sure we have hamstring connection no matter what exercise we're doing, making sure we have hip flexor connection, okay? The breath really is imperative here, okay? And for me, the easiest way to think about that or to share with you when I'm not with you is to take those lowest ribs. They're like right around here. Mine are like almost right on top of my hip bones. And think of closing them to your belly button, okay? And that gets everything activated in here. Okay, shoulder blades. Shoulder blades are a little bit tough to talk about without doing a movement. But we can use the circle a little bit, okay? For our shoulder blade protraction and retraction, so you want your shoulder blades to be able to move. Protraction is widening them, and retraction is pulling them more towards your spine. We protract and retract. Okay, and we can also do that in our cat-cow position, pulling up, okay, activating our hamstrings by bending the knee, and we can protract and retract. I have a little bit of spinal change here, spinal position change. Just go with it because we are changing the position of the spine in space. Okay, so those are a few things to be watching out for. Also, hang on a second, don't move. Okay, you may have your ball, okay? If you're doing things, ab curl things that are bothering your neck, put your head on a ball. So when you elevate your head, it's easier to find this thoracic flexion here. So you could even do your 100s here, 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 and switch, okay? It does a little overflex the neck, but it helps bring the rib cage down. So if you're working this way, the ball does help bring everything to the center. You can even use this for bridging, although I would not really recommend going past much your belly button, okay? So this ball, or you can use a yoga block. It doesn't even have to be this big. It could be just like a little towel. It's gonna help you flex here, okay? Also, activating inner thighs. Okay, maybe for your 100s, you need a ball in between your knees. Okay, you can press down into the hamstrings, squeeze, push up for the hip flexor, and then everything around the hip socket is supported. And then when you bring your legs up to chair position, I was shaking there, you have a lot of work, okay? Mat classes can be really challenging to teach in a video. It is very nuanced. All of Pilates is nuanced. Your shoulder being here or being here changes the muscle sling that's working, can change your core muscle engagement, can change your breath. Same with if your leg is here, or if it's here, or if it's here. And so it can't, like I said, it can be very nuanced, and it can be very confusing because just because mat class is on a mat and just on a mat does not mean that it's simple, okay? The movement is highly, highly complex. And so tomorrow, I know today was just like a long rambling discussion, but tomorrow we will be doing a class that is a modified mat. And we'll modify all the exercises that we're doing. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Please feel free to message me any concerns. If you have any pain, if something's not working, if you're not progressing, or it's confusing, please reach out.